The Ring, Part 1. Sarah was walking alone at night when she was startled by a man. He stood there at the end of the alley, standing still. He looked as if he were drunk, with a slight crook in his elbows. Sarah couldn't see his face. All she could tell was that he seemed like a man she shouldn't go near. But Sarah was on her way home, and this man was in her way. She only lived a few dozen feet away, and this man was directly in her way. So she took a deep breath and continued walking. As she passed him, he turned toward her. His eyes were bloodshot, but his irises were completely clear. "Hi there, Sarah," the man said. She paused. Sarah didn't recognize this man in the slightest, so how did he know her name? "Wondering how I know your name?" the man asked. "Totally normal. Truth be told, you humans rarely know me anymore anyway." Clearly the man was drunk. Sarah made a sound that could have been mistaken for laughter, and continued walking away. The man walked up next to her. Not wanting him to know where she lived, Sarah walked past her apartment complex and kept walking. "Not going home?" the man asked. Scared, Sarah held up the pepper spray that had been in her hand since she left the party. "What do you want?" she asked the man. "After what I said earlier, that's your question?" the man said. "Not who I am, but what I want? Humans never cease to amuse me." "If that's where you want to start, that's fine with me. I want you to track something down for me." Sarah was no detective. She was a veterinarian. Ask her to diagnose when a dog is depressed? Easy. But she sometimes had trouble finding the remote. Scared to know the answer, Sarah asked what he wanted her to find. "A ring," the man answered. "A golden ring." "Sorry, but I'm not looking to marry," Sarah responded. The man chuckled. Sarah smelled his breath in that instant. She was expecting the smell of alcohol, or at least cheap booze, but she smelled roses. "The ring isn't to marry you," he responded. "Let's just say it has sentimental value." "Why me?" Sarah asked. "No particular reason," he winked at her. "You just happened to be the first one to walk by." Sarah was getting tired. They'd already walked another couple hundred feet and had reached the street again. Sarah thought to herself, if he knew where she lived, why'd she keep walking? Turning around, she addressed the man. "If I do find this ring, what do I get?" "What do you want?" the man asked. Sarah thought about it for a short time. On the one hand, this wasn't normally something she did. On the other, it was just a ring. $100, she answered. "Ah," the man held a hand to his chin. He smiled. Sarah saw his teeth. Somehow they had a slight tinge of red. With the smell of his breath, Sarah assumed he recently drank rosewater. "So basic. I'll give you something better." "Which is?" Sarah asked. "Not yet," the man said with a twinkle in his eye. "I'll give you a down payment first." The man held out his hand, signing for Sarah to hold hers out below his. The man opened his hand, and out dropped a single gold coin. "Half now, half later." With that, the man turned around and walked away. Sarah walked the rest of the way to her apartment. Sarah left the gold coin on her bedside table and went to sleep. It wasn't until just before she fell asleep, before she realized he never even told her where to look. Part 2. Sarah woke up the next morning with a headache. She remembered the party last night. Remembering the man, Sarah suddenly felt extreme vertigo and ran to throw up in the bathroom. But her stomach was empty, so she left dry heaving for a few minutes. Sarah went back to her bed to contemplate going to work or not. Her headache wasn't going away anytime soon, and she figured she might as well at least try to find the man's ring, even though he left her with zero hints of where to look, or even a description beyond a ring being gold. Sarah tried to call work to tell them she was taking a sick day, but winded up having to leave a voicemail. She left it vague so they wouldn't ask questions. Her head still hurting, Sarah laid back down. Her headache was becoming bearable, but it still hurt. Sarah opened a single window in her apartment and let the light shine on her face. She knew the light would help her, but that didn't change how much she hated it. After a while, Sarah got up and cleaned herself up. She decided to go with grays for her clothes to match her mood. Last night it started snowing, so she was sure to bundle up in warm clothes. Sarah figured she'd start with the place she found the man last night. If he was standing there, maybe he lost it there. When Sarah opened her front door, she found a note in the snow covering her doorstep. She figured the man realized he forgot to tell her pretty much anything, and this was his way to tell her. She opened the letter, and the only words were, "Watch the news." Annoyed, Sarah went back inside and turned on her TV. Sarah thought to herself, there's multiple news networks. Which one am I supposed to watch? Sarah flipped through the channels and couldn't decide which she was supposed to watch. They were all covering different things. After an hour, Sarah's remote died. She was forced to watch a story about a crash that happened last night. Not knowing where else to start, Sarah turned off the TV manually and headed outside. It was even colder in the day than it was last night. Sarah ran back inside, grabbed some gloves, then finally started walking outside. It was even colder in the day than it was last night. Sarah ran back inside, grabbed some gloves, then finally started walking outside. Normally Sarah would have taken the train, but she wanted the walk to help clear her head. Apparently the crash was pretty nasty and she didn't want to show up with a cloudy head. On the way, Sarah walked past some people she recognized. Being in a big city, that wasn't super common, but she liked to know her neighbors. She recognized a couple she occasionally ran with. She recognized the old lady whose dog Sarah occasionally walked. She even thought she saw one of her coworkers, but they turned too fast for her to be sure. When Sarah arrived, pieces of the car were still on the road and sidewalk. Luckily, Sarah didn't see any bodies. The news said a couple people had passed, but she only saw the car parts. Sarah didn't particularly want to be ran over, so she started looking through the pieces she could easily get to. The front fender had bounced to the sidewalk. Sarah looked through it and didn't find a gold ring. Sarah wasn't exactly a car person, so she didn't recognize the other pieces she looked through on the sidewalk. With the stroke of luck, she found a piece she recognized as part of a glove compartment. She didn't find a gold ring, but she did find a couple $100. Figuring the driver probably didn't need it anymore, she pocketed the cash. At least today wouldn't be a total waste of time. The day was pretty slow, so Sarah decided to risk her luck and run and grab some of the pieces in the street. Part 3. Sarah waited until the cars were clear before running into the icy streets to grab the car parts. Sarah thanked the stars for her gloves that her boyfriend gave her a few weeks ago. Without them, the frozen car parts would have wrecked the skin on her hands. She continued to look through the pieces, finding nothing. Sarah was ready to give up. After all, she was only here because of dumb luck when the TV remote just happened to die during that one segment. But Sarah wasn't a quitter. She got through university, she could get through this. Sarah sat on a close-by bench and rested for a bit. She thought it might be impossible to find a ring in a crash, so maybe if there was a survivor, they might know something. Sarah looked up an article on her phone about the crash and found that there had been one survivor. She was currently resting in a nearby hospital. Sarah didn't want to immediately go there, but figured now was as good a time as any. At least she could return the couple $100 she found earlier. She knew the girl would probably need it for the hospital bills. Not wanting to walk, Sarah used her phone to request a ride from a ride-sharing app. The car showed up a few minutes later, but thanks to the driver not paying attention, the driver canceled the ride. Sarah thought to herself, what a prick. Deciding to walk, Sarah turned in the direction of the hospital. The day was getting even colder. Luckily, the sun was keeping her warm. When Sarah arrived at the hospital, she tried to ask the receptionist what room to go to, but the receptionist was apparently too caught up playing a card game that she just ignored Sarah. Sarah, wanting to slap the receptionist, just went to the elevator. She found the ICU and selected the floor. When she arrived on the floor, it was completely silent. She peeked through rooms, asking for a patient that arrived last night. One lady sitting on a bed talking to the patient told her to check room 242, so that's where Sarah walked. When Sarah arrived, she found the man standing over the woman with her face covered in bandages. Took you long enough, the man said. Much longer and you'd be too late. Sarah was dumbfounded. She didn't expect to see the man anytime soon, especially not when he still looked drunk on rosewater. What are you doing here? Sarah asked him. Here to provide your payment, he said. He pointed to a red velvet box on the stand next to the woman. Sarah picked up the box, and inside was a smooth golden ring. It was beautiful. Well, I didn't exactly find it myself, but I'll still take the payment, Sarah said. Of course you didn't find it yourself, he said. It wasn't even yours. In fact, it was your boyfriend's. More precisely, he had intended to give it to you. Confused, Sarah asked the man, What do you mean? Simple, really, the man began. Your boyfriend was drunk last night when he was driving you home from the party, but Sarah had walked home last night, she was pretty sure. Oh, you walked the last mile, 'cause that's where you crashed, the man said. The man grabbed the bandages and, before Sarah could protest, ripped off the bandages. With her eyes closed, Sarah's face looked back at her. The man's face softened. Your payment is the wedding you never had, and now never will. Mind if I see that coin I gave you yesterday? Numb, Sarah handed over the gold coin. The man procured another from his pocket. He placed both gold coins over the body's closed eyes, and suddenly, the heartbeat machine went flat.